What's up guys, Sam Taggart here, helping you expand your life and the lives you lead. Now, I've helped sales reps all over the country in over 30 different industries, whether that's windows, roofing, solar, pest control. I sold alarms, solar, all sorts of stuff. And the real question is what is the best industry to be in? And how do I make the most amount of money? Obviously, you don't want to be pounding the streets, knocking doors, selling appointments, whatever that is, and be in the wrong environment, the wrong vehicle. And so often we look at the greener grass. And so I'm gonna expose all these industries right now in this video. And I'm gonna tell you my own 2 cents after consulting over 250 companies, training tens of thousands of salespeople, and hosting an event where all of them come and collaborate and they just try to puff their chest and say I'm the best. So reality is all of them are great. And a lot of people are like, Sam, but no, pick. And so before I do this, I want you to comment right now and say why your industry is the best, and you go make your own argument. The reason I sold alarms was because when I first got into the industry, I was 18 in 2008, guys. I've been doing this for over, I don't know, was that 15 years. And at the end of the day, what happened is my sister had a friend that was selling pest control. And she's like, hey, this guy's doing pest control. He wants you to go sell with him this summer. And my brother had a friend that was doing alarms. And he's like, I want you to come sell with me this summer. And so they're in this recruiting battle. And so I had to make a decision. It's like alarms or pest control. So I want to tell you how I made my decision. I said, well, how much do you make in pest control per sale? And they're like, oh, you make like $200 to $300. And I was like, how much do you make in alarms per sale? And they're like, oh, you make like $300 to $400. And I was like, well, why would you sell pest control if the alarms you make more? And the guy's like, yeah, you make more, but it's easier over here. I'm like, well, I don't care what's easier. I'm just saying who makes more money. And for some reason in my head, I just said higher commission, I would make more money. And I chose the alarm route. Well, in reality, as I looked into this way more, is I know that people always try to make the mark of 3 pest control accounts for every 1 alarm account sold. So the average pest control sales guy, and I've ran the numbers amongst all these different companies, is gonna sell around 150 accounts per summer on their first year. So if you're like, okay, let's say you make $300 a sale and you do 150, do the math. Now, the average alarm guy, realistically, their first year is gonna sell around 40 to 50 accounts per year. Well, if they're making $400 to $600 a sale and they're selling 4 to 50 a year, do the math. And then you're like, okay, what's the top performer gonna make? So this is the other part. This is where I'm like, okay, I sold 400 alarms. I was the #1 rep at Vivint, the biggest alarm company in the country. So therefore I can say I was the top guy in the industry, right? And I made personally, I'll just tell you how it was, about $350,000 on my personal sales commission that year. I made overrides on team and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, $350,000. Well, in pest control, the rate that these guys are making, their top guys are gonna sell about 1,000 accounts. And the average contract value is gonna be about 600 to 700 contract value. Well, these guys are making on average 400 to 600,000 in a summer in 4 months as the top reps. And so depending on the deal they got and depending on their market and their company and things like that, you're kind of like, okay, top guy, I made 300 something, top guy there. And that's why a lot of people are migrating into the pest control space. Is because they were always, in alarms, I was always trying to make the argument of, hey, I'm gonna make way more money. And the reality is it's an easier sell, and these guys now are making really competitive commissions and they're making stupid money. Well, now let's move into the solar space. So you're like, okay, these guys are making $500,000 to $600,000 just on sales commission in 4 months. Well, solar people have to work year round. There's a few solar companies that do 10-day blitzes. There's a few solar companies that are gonna do 4-month sprints. But at the end of the day, most solar sales reps work 12 months. And the reality is when I got into solar, I did it for about 2.5 years, and I never really worked a full alarm day. So 4 months of alarms or a blitz and alarms, I'd work from 11 a.m. to 9:30 at night. Well, in solar, I'd work for 3-4 hours, go set a couple appointments, maybe go to an appointment and then be done. And so it's a lot slower race. It's kind of like the tortoise wins the race with solar. It's not about like high intensity. And so you kind of live a little better lifestyle. You're kind of more year round. But the reality is these guys work 12 months. And so you ask yourself, okay, in 4 months, if I would have done, all 12 months selling alarms, what would have I made? And then you ask yourself like, okay, 12-month period, the average sales guy is gonna make 4 per month. So statistically in most companies, if I survey them, 3 to 4 sales for a closer, and if they're making on average $2,000 to $4,000, so let's say it's $3,000 on a high end per sale. So they're making, let's say 3,000 times 4, that's $12,000 per month just selling solar. So you're like, okay, you're making over a 6-figure income. That's great. And that would be if I'm self-generating the deal. That would be if they actually install. And there's some guys, so then you ask yourself, what are the top guys doing? So there's a guy, Luke Ward, he's in our mastermind. We run an experts mastermind for high achievers, leaders, and business owners. And he was the #1 rep in 2021. So let's go off of his statistics. So he did 250 something installs. Now this year, there's a guy on track to do 400, which is unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. But like most guys are doing 3 to 4 months. So just fathom the difference there, right? And let's take last year's number and you say 250, let's say he's making on average $3,000 to $5,000. So let's say $3,000 a sale. Some guys might get paid a little bit more depending on the company, depending on their rank, depending on whatever, the price they charge. So I'm just going off of general numbers. So 3,000 times 250, what is that? 750,000. So you're like, okay, just on personal sales, he's making $750,000 and he's the #1 rep in the entire industry last year. So go do the math. You're like, okay, the average guy's making this, the top guy's making this, what do I want to do? The reality though is if I'm only selling 4 a month and I'm average, and everybody's like, well, I'm going to be above average. I'm like, okay, I bet you're below average. Half the people are sitting here just watching this. So now you ask yourself, like, what do I do the next 25 days in the month? That means you're selling 0. You're getting 0. You're making every day. You're going 2 weeks and made no money. The risk is really high. Let's say you only had a month, you did 1. Or let's say you did 2 in a month and 2 of them canceled. And now you make no money that entire month. How do you survive? How do you pay rent? So the problem in solar is a lot of these guys get into it and then the pay, you have to wait 3-4 months for real money to start kicking in because you get most of your pay come install. And so all these people are like, solar industry is so good, solar industry is so good. And then they quit because they don't have enough money to survive the whole 6-month ramp up to start seeing real money and checks come in because they hear all of this money and then they have deals canceled, deals flip-flop, and then they don't see it. And then that gives them a bad taste. Now, setters in solar, some of these setters are making 50% of the commission. Some of them are making a per appointment SAT, maybe let's say 75, 150 bucks, whatever it is. So you're like, okay, what if I just set appointments? Well, if you have sucky closers that can't close your deals, then you freaking are screwed. If you have people that no-show all the freaking time, then you're screwed. And if your pay isn't quick, then maybe you don't have enough money to survive. So there's a lot of risk in this. So what I like about some industries is you're paid every Friday on the deals that you sold the last week because they're funded like that. And being in an industry you get quicker pay might be something that you're interested in. So look into that. Roofing. Okay, let's get into that. I've consulted now 200 roofing companies. I swear roofing seems to be one of my most popular industries that I help. And there's thousands and thousands of roofing companies. And there's 2 types of roofing. There's insurance work and there's retail work, meaning you finance or cash, or the insurance work is I'm working on a disaster, whether that's a tornado, a storm, a hurricane, or something like that. So now you ask yourself, okay, am I in a storm environment? So if you're in California, like I'm gonna get into roofing, well, the reality is most of those you're selling a retail job, meaning you're charging them $20,000, $15,000 to get their new roof done. And then what % of the neighborhoods actually need a new roof? So now you're really headhunting the homes that are old roofs. And then you ask yourself, you're like, I'm in Dallas or Colorado, Florida, some of the East Coast, the South, where there's hurricanes, there's tornadoes, and there's hailstorms that happen all the stinking time. So reality is you gotta figure out, are you in a storm market? And then now you're waiting on acts of God. So Denver, 4 years ago, had an amazing storm, 2 huge hailstorms, and everybody rushed and moved their families to Denver. And they're like, Denver's the hotspot. And then what's happened? No storms for 3 years. So they're just working on old storms that were big, and now it's just been really slow. And they're like, please, God, send another natural disaster to ruin these people's homes. Which is not like obviously that bad. It's just like that hits, it happens. Some stormers are open to moving. They go where the storms flow, meaning, okay, weather's about to happen in frickin' North Dakota. They just ship out to North Dakota the next day and they say, boom, I'm gonna hunker down for 3-4 weeks. They go sell as much as they can, land grab, then boom, another storm happened in Nebraska, land grab there, and they move around. Those guys that are willing to go chase the storms are making stupid amounts of money because the reality is you can sell 10 to 20 roofs in one day and you're making on average 1,000 to 5,000 roofs in one sale, and all you had to do was get the insurance to pay for the roof that was already damaged and they've already been paying insurance, and get the homeowner to pay their deductible. And then what's crazy is these roofers that are smart start to get into the commercial space where they find an apartment complex, a retail center that actually got smoked by a hailstorm, and now they're selling 100,000, a 500,000 roof, and they're making, you know, anywhere from 50 to $200,000 in a commission, and they're selling one of those a month. And now do the math on that. So I've watched some of these roofers run circles around. I had a client who's in our mastermind, his very first year in roofing. He went down to Florida, in southern Florida, where Hurricane Irma had hit, and he had made over $1.4 million coming from being a fireman, never having sales training in 1 year. So now ask yourself, because they're selling big tile roofs, their average ticket's $60,000 and the insurance is paying for it. So what's beautiful about the roofing space is a lot of it's paid for by insurance. You're working on natural disasters, and it can be a very, very, very lucrative industry. Highly, highly recommend it. Now, what if you coupled roofs and solar? What if you started coupling roofs and alarms, or solar and alarms? You started working in cross-selling, you started multi-selling. It's not something I highly recommend, but maybe if your company offers it, you work out a referral system, self-gen, you have an opportunity to do so. Next thing would be like windows. Windows and siding and doors and things like that on a more retail setting. Well, everybody knows that eventually they're gonna have to get their windows replaced. Everybody knows that they wanna gentrify their home, and it adds value to the home. So windows can be a beautiful thing, because if you can help them see value in the ability to help energy regulate their home and help obviously upgrade the home and build value, you're going to help obviously get those sales. So windows is a phenomenal industry. I've consulted many window industries. And then you have a ton of auxiliary industries, satellite, AT&T, you have paint. I've helped a Colorado painting company. I've seen curb painting. I've seen lawn services. I've seen all sorts of, like, water softeners is a huge one. So like, imagine you go and put in a home purification system in people's homes. That's a great industry. And guys, the reality is nothing is too saturated to sell. There's margins in all of them, or else they wouldn't exist. It's just about you going out and hustling. So hopefully this sheds some light, gave some insight. If you're wondering what the freak is every industry about, and I promise I'm coming from a source of, yeah, every company's a little different, and hopefully I didn't expose anything too much, but at the end of the day, at least you learned a little bit about all the door-to-door industries. So I'd highly recommend you subscribe to our channel, hit the little subscribe button right now, and we have tons of videos on door knocking, sales training, leadership, recruiting, and how to just expand your life and the lives you lead. If you're somebody that's looking to level up, you could also check out our online training system, D2D University, and that's gonna be something that's gonna give you specific industry knowledge that's gonna make you a top performer. We've had over 40,000 people go through our platform, and is ranked by far the #1 sales training platform in the industry. Click the link, we'd love to see you out there, and leave a comment below to see something you learned, highlight your industry, and we'd love to answer any questions that you may have.